Let's do it. I'm pumped. I'm frowning right now, if you guys can tell.
Can I go ahead?
Go ahead, Chris.
Hey, Richard, this is Chris Biederman with the Sacramento Bee. I'm just wondering, how safe do you feel in the building with all these protocols? I know you played a big role in all the negotiations with the league. How safe do you feel just overall, and how different is this, and how difficult is it to focus on football when there's also such a emphasis on safety?
I feel relatively safe. I mean, just as safe as I do in the rest of society, honestly. Um, at the end of the day, once you get through all the hoops you got to jump through and all the protocols and everything, I mean, you get on the field. Football is football as you know it. Um, obviously, this is in place to make sure that the season can go on, and obviously, there's been a lot of chatter out there about baseball and all this. But I think it's been fine. I think guys have adjusted and adapted in the way they needed to. Um, and outside of the testing every day and maneuvering, the meeting rooms being different, I mean, I think it's been as normal as you can be during this time.
Richard, you spoke the other day about Emmanuel Mosley possibly starting opposite you this season. What specifically has you excited about Emmanuel from your observations of him over the years? What does he do well?
I mean, he does a lot of things well. He's really smart. He's a heady ball player. He adjusts as he goes. He learns. He gets smarter throughout the game. He's poised. He's poised in big games. The moment's never too big for him. He's consistent. He's consistent in practice. He's consistent in the games, and he'll only get better.
Hey, Richard, it's Cam Inman from the San Jose Mercury.
I can barely hear you.
It's Cam Inman from the San Jose Mercury News. You got me now?
Kind of.
Okay. Well, back on the coronavirus and the COVID concerns, did you talk to your wife Ashley for a long time about whether you would play this year, and did you consider opting out? How did the family discussion go?
No, that was never really a conversation, honestly. The more of the conversation was whether her and the kids would come and how the school situations and all that would go. Obviously, I have my home in Seattle, where we stay majority of the time, but um, outside of that, I think that was the only concern, and obviously the safety of my kids and my family is at the highest for me, and that's the dynamic that we needed to figure out, and we've figured it out. They've stayed back, and we're adjusting in that regard.
Richard, Nick Wagner from ESPN here. I'm curious about the drop and the economic realities that you guys are dealing with now, and the potential drop in the salary cap. For you, does that bring any concerns, both as a potential free agent and also just for players at large for free agency going into next year?
Well, I mean, I guess it's a bit of concern, but it's also uncertainty in all regards. Because we won't know really until the season happens. A lot of our projections we projected conservatively. And if everything goes bad and there's zero fans in the stands and there's no concessions, there's no revenue from that regard, which is really extremely doubtful. There are obviously teams and stadiums and states that are open to having fans in the stands. So honestly, we won't know what reality is until the season's up, or throughout the season, you see how many fans are. You see how the world adjusts to COVID. And in that regard, you see, if any vaccines or anything helps to mitigate the issue. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. You can't concern yourself with the uncontrollables. You control what you can control, and you let the rest sort yourself out.
Richard, after all the years in the league that you've been in, the season you had last year, what's your focus as you get ready for training camp? Has the nature of the off season changed up and impacted how you prepare for the season?
Every year is a new year, and every year you gotta reprove yourself, you gotta reestablish yourself, and you gotta put it back on tape, and that's the plan. I gotta go out there, I gotta work hard, I gotta be able to play well for my teammates and try to elevate my team and help us win ball games. I mean, that's the concern every year. The off season has been different, but we're pros and we get our work in, and we've been able to prepare and stay on top of our game. Obviously, it's an adjustment, and winning teams find a way to adjust the best in these situations. So I think the team that would adapt the best will be the one holding the trophy at the end.
Hey, Richard, this is Eric Blanchard with the Chronicle. I just wanted to ask you, oftentimes we hear, everyone that y'all are grown men and all that stuff, but does it change at all this year, with you as a captain as far as, certainly not babysitting guys, but, sending the message, about when you're away from the facility, being responsible, following the rules just because so much is at stake if guys don't do that?
I think the coaches are emphasizing it, but at the end of the day, these are grown men and these are pros. If they're gonna trick it off, they'll get quarantined, they'll get replaced. It'll be unfortunate. That's why we have testing every day, so they can catch it quick. But I think on a team like ours, and we're uniquely um, constructed to deal with this because obviously we're in Santa Clara. There's not a huge nightlife. It's not like we're in Atlanta or Texas or Miami or Las Vegas or LA where there's a lot of distractions, a lot of places you can go, a lot of things you can do to get yourself in trouble. I think our team is incredibly focused because of how close we were to winning the Super Bowl last year, and how that taste in their mouths is a bit of discipline in itself. That hunger, that angst is discipline in itself. So I think our team is incredibly committed and driven towards that goal, and I think that in itself will be discipline enough. Obviously we'll have the conversations, but um, those aren't things that are in anyone's control, but the guys being disciplined.
Hey, Richard, Jennifer Lee Chan. Kind of in that same grain, looking at what happened during the lockout, how important is it to kind of follow those guidelines for the ramp up towards contact and really kind of setting the tone by example and then kind of guiding the younger guys through that?
Uh, I'm not sure the lockout that you mean. But in terms of this offseason and the things that have happened, it's less of a concern because, in the offseason, you have players coming together. Nobody's getting tested. Nobody's being quarantined. Nobody's there were no safety measures, just guys going out there and playing football. These guys, I think we've been tested probably 8 to 10 times already, um, throughout our time in training camp. And guys will continue to be tested daily. So it's not going to be the same where you don't know who has it, you don't know, who's been exposed, et cetera, et cetera. These guys are being tested every 24 hours, um, and we'll know if there's a positive test in the building within 24 hours. Obviously a lot can happen between now and then, but I think with these protocols in place, it's making it a lot safer environment and making players a lot more comfortable.
Hey, Richard, this is David Lombardi. I know that the theme of your first year with the 49ers, you were working with a lot of the young guys, getting them on the same page in the secondary. Last year, it was about putting it all together. I'm wondering, uh, entering this camp and entering this season, a lot of guys last year under contract in the secondary. What's your focus and what's your theme in that room entering this season?
It's about elevating. Last year was a pretty good year, but there are a lot of things we could have done better. There are a lot of things we wish we could have had back. A lot of things we could have been sharper on. A lot of communication that we need to be sharper on, and those things will be better this year. I think another year of continuity, another year of being in the same room, being in the same scheme, knowing each other will be sharper. I think coming into last training camp, there were a ton of questions. There was Jimmy Ward and Tarts. How healthy would they be and how they would get through the season in their first year together after Jimmy played a year at corner and nickel. And, he finally has some continuity. He has a new contract. He's going to be a free safety. Um, I think Tart, having another year under his belt in the scheme and understanding it. I think, at the right corner spot, Emmanuel Mosley having another year and really, really going out there and competing. I think that's what it's about. It's about elevating and being sharper this year and really holding each other accountable.
Hey, Richard, it's Tracy Sandler. You mentioned being tested about 8 times at this point. Can you talk a little bit about the testing experience and what that's been like? And is at this point, is it just kind of old hat because it's happened so many times?
Yeah, I mean it's pretty simple. I mean it's the mid nasal swab. They're going in. They're spinning it around one nostril, spinning it around the other nostril. It kind of tickles. And then you go on about your day. Obviously, they have the contact tracing throughout the building to make sure, if there is an outbreak, if there is a positive test, it's able to be traced and contained. But honestly, it takes about 2 minutes, and it's been, it's part of your routine at this point.
Hey, Sherm, Kiana here. As a veteran, I want to know what's been your take on no preseason games. How does it affect a guy like you going into your 10th season compared to maybe some of these French guys?
Um, Honestly, I'm not sure it'll affect me much at all. I wasn't going to plan on playing much in the preseason, but it is unfortunate for the guys competing for a job, competing for a starting spot and things like that, because you don't get a chance to put it on actual tape. Practice tape and practice reps and doing it right in practice only goes so far. You only get so much credit for that. Guys get a lot more, get a lot more credit and a lot more experience and a lot more, um, I guess, motivated in game reps. Coaches can see it and say, "Hey, that wasn't just, hey, we showed this rep 1,000 times and he got it right in practice. That was, hey, he hasn't seen this team do it. He had to go through a different read. This is a different receiver he's going against. This is a different technique, and he still made the play." So I think um, it's going to be one of those years where it's tough for guys like that to make the team, and that's the part that really sucks, because there's been some fantastic fringe guys that have made this league and has made this league what it is and made it great. And hopefully, some of those guys will still get an opportunity, but I know it'll make it more difficult.
Hey, Richard, it's Jennifer again. What I was talking about is kind of the ramp up towards physical play, because the lockout, there were so many different injuries that happened. So, how important was it for you as a player to kind of get those procedures and protocols in place as the ramp up to tackling, and playing an actual game happens?
Oh, it was super important. I think that a lot has been learned from the 2011 lockout year and how many injuries, because they went straight from nothing to real life football, and a few days of preparation and then shoulder pads and helmets and guys, that's just not how the human body works. So I think this is a much smarter way to approach it, and the NFLPA and the league came up with a joint committee, and those doctors did a great job coming up with this plan, and I think it's going to work especially well, especially under the circumstances. I know people wanted preseason, but there was no way to do preseason safely, in our opinions, and I think it'll work out well in the long run for our men. Obviously, it'll hurt some of our guys, but you just try to do what's right for the majority.
Hey, Richard, Kyle Posey from Niners Nation. You mentioned the word elevate. Can you just talk about the ownership in the locker room on both sides of the ball? Just about how both players, or how all the players, are just taking ownership on getting better?
Yeah, I mean, there's just an accountability, and there's a brotherhood aspect of this team, and it's something that's never talked about enough. There's a chemistry, um, and there's a want to, that they're getting better and wanting to elevate is something that's inside of you, or it's not. And some guys, play this game and say, "Hey, I just want to make a lot of money. I don't care about winning. I don't care about this." And on a winning team, you can't have a lot of those players because you won't ever be successful. We have a lot of unselfish guys who just want to do whatever it takes to help this team win, and that's on both sides of the ball, from Jimmy, um, down to the last practice squad guy. And on defense, it's the same way. We have a lot of unselfish guys and a lot of guys with similar mental makeup. And the guys that they brought in, Trent, being one of them, are built the same way. A lot of the rookies that they brought in are built the same way. And when you got a lot of guys like that, it makes you a hard team to beat, because everybody is willing to do whatever it takes to win. It's not, "Hey, I'm not willing to do this because it's not good for me. I'm willing to do whatever it takes because it's good for us." So if that means a receiver blocking, um, if that means a quarterback freaking shoot, I saw Jimmy pancake somebody last year. It's guys that are willing to go to places other places people aren't willing to go to win the ball game.
All right, that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sherm. And folks, we've got. All right, folks, just a reminder, please raise your hand to ask a question. Please also be reminded that your camera will be live if you have it active, so that folks can see you. Please also, I guess that's it. Turn it over to Jimmy.
What's up, everyone? A little different.
Hey, Jimmy, it's Matt Barrows. It seemed like the 49ers doubled down on yards after the catch guys in the draft. And then just yesterday with Jordan Reed, I was wondering if that caught your eye also. And what are your impressions of the new pass catchers that have been added to the mix this season?
Yeah, it's been a productive offseason, just getting new guys, the guys that we've already had, working with them and even getting some guys back from injury. So it's a great group. It's going to be a competitive camp, and going into the season, we'll see who kind of separates themselves from the crowd. But I think whenever you get more weapons like that, the more competition you add to different position groups and things like that, it only adds to better play.
Hey, Jimmy, it's Grant Cohn. How does your knee feel now compared to at this time last year? Two-parter. First, how does your knee feel now compared to last year? And two, do you expect to have more mobility or maybe velocity than you did last season just because you're another year removed?
Yeah, well, my knee definitely. I mean, it's night and day compared to where I was last year. This time last year was more so getting back into being in a live pocket, having live bullets flying around me, and getting used to that. So we're past that. I haven't really thought about it in a long time, but as far as the mobility and things like that, it's whatever Kyle calls for. I think my knee's in a good position to, it's able to do whatever it needs to do at this point.
Hey, Jimmy, everybody, I don't know if you know this, but a lot of people seem to have opinions about your game. I want to know what your opinion is of how you played in 2019 and what's been your focus between the lines to get better this season. What have you really concentrated on? But first off, how do you feel you played last year?
I thought it was a productive year. Obviously, didn't finish the way we wanted it to, but I think there was a lot of things that went well for us. A thing that I always take pride in is being an accurate quarterback. The more accurate you are, the more yards after catch your guys could go get for you. So in our offense, it's putting the ball in the right spot, putting it in the right timing of the play, and it's little things like that that go a long way in our offense. So I think I was pretty happy with everything, how it went, and like I said, we just want the last game of the season to turn out a little differently.
Hey, Jimmy, it's Cam. What are your thoughts about just playing the whole this season with the COVID-19 hanging over everything? And then, how did that impact your off season, and how did you go about kind of alleviating those concerns?
It was obviously it was a different off season. Got a lot of new things, new weight room at the house, so there's some positives that come out of it, but just everyone's dealing with it, and it's one of those things you got to adapt as quickly as possible, and it's going to be different. We know that going into it, and it's just it's how you deal with the different situation, and obviously having the mask and being safe with things like that, it's those little things that will go a long way, but it is what it is type of thing. I mean, you can't. There's some things that you can control and some things you can't. And so the things that are out of our control, you try not to think too much about. But at the end of the day, you want to be safe, and guys are going home to their families. So it's there's a fine line there. But I think the NFL has done a great job of I can't tell you how many precautions we're taking, the testing, being 6 feet apart. I mean, there's a million things that go into it, but it's been good so far.
Hey, Jimmy, this is Eric Branch. We have not talked to you in this type of group setting since just after the Super Bowl. You've been requested. So just wondering, why haven't we talked to you? I assume the request got back to you. And, I do know, anticipating maybe part of your answer, that you don't want to separate yourself, as like, hey, I'm the quarterback, from your teammates. And if that's part of the reasoning, how do you balance, that desire with, being the franchise quarterback and somewhat of a team spokesman?
Yeah, I think there's obviously a fine line there, but I never like to put myself ahead of anyone or anything like that. But I mean, Bob never gave me those requests, so you're gonna have to talk to him about that one. I'm just kidding. No, it was a different type of off season though. But it was I don't know. I'm glad I'm talking to you guys now.
Hey Jimmy, it's Nick here. Kyle Shanahan said recently on a podcast that last year he felt like was a good kind of foundation for you, that you finally got those 16 games under your belt and that you can really take a big step forward this year. I'm curious how much, looking back, you think it helped to finally get that box kind of checked off, and also what it would look like if you are able to take a step forward next year. Specifically, what are areas of your game that you think could elevate?
Yeah, well, I think having my first full season under my belt, coming off the ACL and everything like that, I mean, everything that went into that season, it will only help me going forward. So I think, in terms of being a quarterback, I still have a long way to go. I'm still, pretty relatively young for a quarterback, just in terms of playing time. So I think, as a quarterback, you got to get out there, get the reps, play, get in the live action like that. And I think having a full season under my belt will help me going forward.
Hey, Jimmy, this is David Lombardi. I wanted to ask more of a big picture question, kind of reflecting back on when you first came to the 49ers in 2017. Playbook was all new, teammates were all new. And since then, you've been building, but the team has also been building. I'm wondering if you've, just noticed a trend that the front office has done a good job, bad job, medium job at building, an offense around you and your skill set. Do you feel that has really fallen into place, that the receivers and the linemen and everybody match what you do well?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think the speed that we bring in, especially in the offensive skill group, I love that. That helps with the run after catch, and it makes my job a little more tough getting them the ball on time and accurately. It's a little different with speedsters like that, but it's a luxury that I love to have. And so, yeah, I think Kyle and John and the whole front office. I mean, just bringing in good people that work hard, people that all think relatively the same. I think that's it's a big key to our success. And bringing in the new old linemen, bringing Trent, Tom. It's a great group up front, and those guys. It's I love having them, and they're just it's been fun so far.
Hey, Jimmy, it's Jennifer Lee Chan. This is the first time we've spoken to you since Joe Staley retired. So, can you give us, your favorite Joe Staley memory, and then also how is your transition going to be, with this kind of shortened off season, adjusting to Trent Williams?
That's a tough one. Favorite Joe Staley. I can't think of one off the top. I mean, when I first got here, Joe was one of the first guys in the locker room. What was the Joe Show? I think it was called. I really didn't even know Joe at the time. We were singing a song together and everything. I'm sure you guys have seen the video, but Joe was always a guy who was open arms right away. Very very upfront, very cool with me from the get go, and I always appreciated him for that. And we'll miss him in the locker room. His character, it's unmatched. But what was the second part of the question? Sorry.
Just how, with the shortened off season, adjusting to Trent Williams, different pieces on the offensive line, how is that going to work for you?
Yeah, I think well, yesterday was kind of our first day getting back into it, starting from day one install, and it'll build from here. But it's a different training camp than usual, so we got to build quickly, build that chemistry and everything, and I think everyone's on the same playing field, so we just got to take advantage of it.
Hey, Jimmy, it's Tracy Sandler. Can you talk a little bit about the new COVID protocols and how you are adjusting to them? And then, as a follow up, can you also talk about the testing process and what that's been like for you?
Yeah, it's definitely different. I mean, your morning takes longer to come in. You got to go through all the testing, answer the survey and all that, and there's a lot of little pieces that go into it. But it's like anything, it's part of your routine now, and so it's just kind of get used to it and you adapt to it. But I think the biggest difference is just the time efficiency. I would say. I mean, you can't really go from one thing to the next real fluidly. It's different than it was before, and so like I said, we just have to adapt to it and make the best of the situation.
Jimmy, I know you haven't seen a lot of Jarek McKinnon at this point, but I was hoping you could share your observations of what you have seen from him and also your recollection from what it was like with him in 2018, the rapport that you guys seemed the quick rapport that you guys seem to have on the field.
Yeah, Jet. I mean, being a former quarterback, it's kind of it's a rarity to have a skill position guy who sees the game like a quarterback still. And Jet does a great job of that. I mean, even just throwing routes on air this offseason, he runs them differently than most running backs, and he has a feel that's like a receiver, but he feels space like a quarterback. It's very unique, and I'm excited to get him back, man. It's been a while. You know, we came in together, me and him, when we both signed here, and it's uh it's exciting to have him back.
Hey, Jimmy, there's a lot of talk about what's going to happen if a player tests positive, especially at the quarterback position. What are you guys doing as a group, as a position group, to take, to mitigate the risk involved with such a thing?
Well, the mask is the first step. This is with us everywhere we go, and then just the staying 6 feet apart is the other big part of it. I think it's easier said than done. I mean, there's a lot of times, especially on the field, that you're interacting with people, you're talking to people, but just you try not to make it last too long. I guess that I know it sounds weird to even say, but it's just I mean these are the rules that we're given, so we gotta make the best of the situation, adapt to it, and keep moving forward. But whatever happens, I think we'll be ready for it.
Hey, Jimmy, how's it going over there? I'm interested to figure out what your thoughts on playing in front of an empty stadium. How is that going to affect the game and the momentum and that whole thing?
It'll be different. No silent count will be needed on the road, so that's a luxury that I'm pretty excited about that one. But yeah, it'll be different. I mean, you'll have to bring your own juice. I'll tell you what, our team, that's one thing that we don't have a problem with, though. It's bringing the energy. We bring it every day in practice, and you see it out there during training camp already. I mean, the first walkthrough was basically like it felt full speed. So it's just, I don't know. It's one of those things. I keep saying it, but we're just gonna have to adapt to it and you know change on the fly, I guess. And I'm sure there'll be some hiccups along the way, but the better we could adapt and the more quickly we could adapt, the better.
Got one more question there.
Yeah, well, can I ask two questions then? One, Jimmy, can you just explain what the whole scenario was like when the 49ers came out and said that they were looking at Tom Brady, and whether Tom reached out to you on that? And then my second question is just basically how the new receivers look at, or the guys back like Ayuk, Bird, and Taylor specifically.
Yeah, I think when all that was going on, you hear about it and things like that, but I really wasn't too worried. I'm always confident in my play, and I know what I put out there this season and everything like that. So it's all about being confident, and it's just part of the business. I've seen both sides of it, so I've been there. But as far as the new guys, it's been exciting. Getting guys back who were hurt last year, the rookies, getting them in. I mean, there's some talent across the board, and so it'll take some time, and we got to play some catch up with those guys. But it's exciting time of year. It's good to be back.
All right.
All
Thanks,
right.
folks.
Thanks, guys.
Jimmy.
Good seeing all you.